What if I told you that the very thing you've always been praised for, the quick mind, the sharp insight, the ability to see what others miss, might also be the quiet reason people start pulling away from you? What if the same clarity that helps you solve problems also makes people wish you weren't in the room when you do? Not years from now, not in theory, now, in the meeting where your idea ends the debate, and no one meets your eyes afterward, in the classroom where you answer the question no one else could, and laughter turns to silence, with friends you've known for years, when your honesty starts to feel like a wall between you, no fight, no confrontation, just the subtle shift in the air, and the unspoken sense that you've crossed a line you can't see. Imagine you solve the challenge no one else could, and the room falls silent, not with celebration, but with a subtle, unspoken tension. The smiles remain, yet the atmosphere has shifted in ways few will admit. It isn't the merit of your solution they resist. It's what your clarity reveals about them. Your insight becomes a mirror, reflecting realities they would rather avoid. In 2010, a peer-reviewed study on social comparison bias examined how 154 participants chose teammates for a problem-solving task. The results were striking. Over 60% avoided working with someone more capable, even when it meant lowering the group's chances of success. Higher ability wasn't seen as a resource, but as a personal threat. Arthur Schopenhauer predicted this long before researchers gave it a name. He argued that when intellect shines too brightly, it doesn't inspire gratitude. It provokes quiet resistance. If you were in that group study, would you have chosen the best teammate for the win, or the one who let you feel like you'd already won? Schopenhauer wasn't a philosopher who wrote to please his peers or win polite applause. Born in 1788 to a wealthy merchant family in Danzig, he was expected to inherit the family business. Instead, he abandoned that path to study philosophy, a choice that quickly alienated much of the academic world. His lectures were scheduled at the same hour as Hegel's, the intellectual darling of Berlin, a decision he stubbornly refused to change, even knowing it meant speaking to near-empty halls. While Hegel drew crowds, Schopenhauer addressed rows of vacant chairs, his words echoing into the silence. Publishers rejected him, colleagues ignored him, and his name became synonymous with being too difficult, too unyielding. Yet he saw this not as failure, but as proof of his philosophy. Truth, stripped of flattery, rarely wins the favor of those it exposes. For him, conviction was measured not by the size of the audience, but by the fidelity to one's own voice when no one is listening. Schopenhauer believed most human behavior was driven by ego and self-interest, and he articulated it with a bluntness that left no room for comfort. He argued that intellect, when too sharp, threatens the fragile sense of self others carry, transforming admiration into quiet resentment. He often invoked Socrates as the archetype of this dynamic. Socrates was not condemned because he was wrong, but because he was too right in a way that stripped illusions bare. His relentless questioning threatened the civic and moral self-image of Athens, a city that prided itself on wisdom. Instead of confronting uncomfortable truths, the system, in this case, the entire Athenian democracy, chose preservation of stability over confrontation with reality. In such environments, success often belongs not to the most capable, but to those most skilled at preserving the fragile comfort of the group. When the truth becomes a threat to the social order, the system rewards mediocrity and punishes brilliance, not because brilliance lacks value, but because it cannot be controlled. In today's world, the quiet resistance Schopenhauer described is everywhere. And nowhere is it more visible than on social media. The evidence is in plain sight. Posts that challenge assumptions or demand deeper thought often sink with little engagement, while agreeable, easy takes spread effortlessly. Algorithms have learned what people prefer: comfort over confrontation, validation over clarity, and they feed it back to us in endless loops. Strong arguments are often distorted or ridiculed, then used to justify existing beliefs. The result is a curated reality where the voices most capable of sharpening our thinking are buried, not because they lack value, but because they disrupt the pleasant illusion we'd rather keep. History is filled with moments where intellect was not celebrated, but sidelined. Philosophers, scientists, and reformers who saw more clearly than others often met the same fate. Not open debate, but quiet exclusion. Socrates was condemned for corrupting the youth, when his real crime was forcing Athens to face uncomfortable truths. Galileo was silenced for describing a universe that didn't revolve around human ego. Schopenhauer saw this as a recurring law of human behavior. When ideas threaten pride, they are resisted, no matter how true they are. The names change, but the reaction remains the same. Schopenhauer didn't believe you could change human nature, but he believed you could outthink it. Fighting back doesn't mean diluting your ideas to please the crowd. It means delivering them in ways that bypass the reflex to resist. Ask questions that lead others to their own conclusions. Choose timing that lets truth land when people are ready to hear it. Build trust before you challenge pride. And most importantly, guard your clarity from the noise. Because the greatest loss isn't being ignored, it's silencing your own voice to secure acceptance. Neuroscience has shown that the human brain is wired for efficiency, not truth. We gravitate toward patterns that confirm what we already believe, a shortcut that once helped us survive in simpler worlds. But in the age of artificial intelligence, that instinct is being amplified. Algorithms learn our biases, feed them back to us, and seal us inside curated realities. The more predictable our thinking, the more profitable we become, for platforms, not for ourselves. Schopenhauer would have called it a modern proof of his philosophy. When the will seeks comfort, the intellect becomes its servant. And in a world where machines can predict our thoughts before we form them, resisting that pull isn't just curiosity, it's freedom. In a world that trades truth for comfort, who has the courage to remain unmoved? Not the one who bends to every current opinion, not the one who trades truth for applause. It is the rare mind that refuses to be softened by the need for acceptance, the one who will speak plainly, even when the room falls silent, the one who will choose isolation over the slow corrosion of self-betrayal. Because in the end, remaining unmoved is not about defiance for its own sake. It's about protecting the only thing that cannot be restored once lost to conformity, your self-identity. So next time you feel the urge to soften your words so they're easier to hear, the next time you avoid the truth because it might unsettle the room, the next time you sense the safety of staying silent, remember Schopenhauer's warning. Conformity doesn't arrive with threats. It tempts you with belonging. At that moment, you have a choice. Will you trade clarity for the comfort of acceptance? Or will you take the harder path, to speak plainly and keep the freedom to see the world as it truly is? Schopenhauer's question isn't whether we can recognize the truth. It's whether we will defend it when the cost is our comfort, our reputation, or our place among others. The true test of intellect isn't in seeing clearly. It's in refusing to look away when that clarity demands courage. History remembers the scientists, reformers, and thinkers who shaped the world. but in their time, they were met with ridicule, rejection, and resistance. Every time you choose clarity over comfort, truth over approval, and thought over reflex, you walk the same path they did. If you've witnessed this, when truth is ignored, avoided, or quietly punished, share your thoughts in the comments. Not for applause, but because every voice makes it harder for truth to be silenced. In doing so, you're not just protecting your own mind, you're defending the possibility of progress itself.